Hi guys! Something a little different today. Instead of doing artwork, we're going to talk about how much I love this deck and how the artwork affects, or at least in my headcanon, interacts with the playstyle of the deck. So if that sounds of interest to you, feel free to follow along. This deck originally came out in Amazing Defenders early last year, and then it got new support over the summer. I have been enjoying playing it since then, but it recently got reprinted off the wazoo in Rarity Collection, and even though I told myself I did not need to upgrade all of my cards into the higher rarity versions, here we are. So anyway, let's just go through Purrely. This is not going to be a strategy guide. This is going to be more of a look at the storyline in this in case you haven't noticed it before. And again, like I mentioned, this was recently reprinted a lot. It is a good deck. It's a little complicated, so maybe this video will help you better understand how the cards interact. But at the end of the day, if you're looking for something inexpensive to play that is super cute and has really nice lore behind it, this might be the deck for you. Anyway, let's jump in. So first off, Purrely is our main starter that we were originally given in Amazing Defenders, and I do say Purrely. I've heard people say Purrely. I've heard people say Purrely. Purrely in my brain because Purrely is this word with one less R. Purrely. Two words stuck together. Yu-Gi-Oh likes to do that. So I call it Purrely. Bear with me if that's not your preference. But anyway, we will get started with our little white cat here. We have two main deck monsters. We've got Purrely and we've got Purrely or Purrely, depending on what your preference is. And basically how the story goes is you're walking along on the field spell here on your stray Purrely street, and what would you know but you encounter this little friend, and they come out to meet you. And that is how you meet your own, my friend Purrely, who's like, oh, me, this cute little stray covered in leaves? Well, yes, I will come home with you. That is how the cat distribution system works. So these two cards are your main resource generators in the deck. Your field spell is going to be protection for your special summoned Purrely monsters for the turn they're special summoned, and then it also gives you an Exe attachment in the end phase on either player's turn. Always remember both players, super helpful. And then your my friend Purrely, they're both hard once per turns on this, but on once per turn for the restorative effect. But this one also is a once per turn. You can pay 500 and then reveal 3 of your Purrely cards from your deck, and then your opponent randomly picks 1 for you to add to your hand. So this is the nice thing about this is they don't have to be different names. So if you're running, like if you really want one of the quick play spells where you're running 3 copies of it, or the field spell, for example, this can actually get you that guaranteed. Still randomly added by your opponent, but definitely handy. But as you're going along on your street, you meet your little friend here, and that is where your adventure begins. And then depending on how you want to raise your Purrely, you can provide all of these different memories for it. So out the gate, before we had our summer support, we were given a delicious memory where you have Purrely just feasting out these cute little pancakes. I love it so much. You have a pretty memory where she is so happily getting a bath and all the bubbles, or you have a happy memory where you can see like the cat tree in the background. We're chasing a ball. So cute. So yes, all Purrely is featured in all of these artworks, living through all these different memories. And then the new support that we got a few months after it originally came out was Sleepy Memory, which was originally released as a common, so super affordable, and then it got a super rare upgrade in our tournament pack. But this is so cute because you're out playing with Purrely, and then he sees in the pet store window, that's another one like me, he says. And that's where Purrely comes into the story. So then you got your 2 buddies, your 2 kitties becoming friends. So cute. So as we said, we have these different memories that, depending on which one you want to use, actually ranks up your Purrely or Purrely into their respective Exe forms. A couple more notes just on the gameplay aspect. Purrely has a hard once per turn effect where it can target one of your quick play spells in the graveyard and then use its corresponding spell to go into its corresponding Exe monster. Regular Purrely has the effect where you can reveal one from your hand and then go into the Exe that corresponds to it. So before we get into really any more about that, let's talk about the rank up forms for these cuties. So if you are, either one of them can go into any of the exes, just to clarify, like even though the artwork matches specific ones, you're not restricted to those. However, you are restricted into the exes you go into based on which quick play. So if you are going to use Happy Memory, either by targeting it in the graveyard with Purrely or revealing it in your hand with Purrely, that lets you go into a Purrely Happiness. So this guy here is your rank up with Happiness. And what I love about this is like you're basically playing with him and he's like being super playful and active and like kind of a more physically active pet, if you will. And that gets into Happiness. So we will talk more about that here in a bit, how to help you remember his specific effects. If you're going into Pretty Memory, if that's the option you have, then it goes into a Purrely Beauty. And Beauty is quite bubbly and cute, so you can see how they match their respective artworks here. And then if you are going to feed your Purrely a whole bunch so that he has this wonderful memory of the noms, he goes into a Purrely Plump, which is just so cute. So again, you got your delicious memory goes into Plump. And then last but not least, if you're using your sleepy memory there with your purple kitty in the artwork is going to go into a Purrely Noir. Also known as Little Noir. You might hear it referred to as that when you're talking with other Yu-Gi-Oh players about it. So those are your basic rank 2s. You'll notice all these are rank 2. Purrely and Purrely are both level 1. So you cannot just normal Xyz summon into these. You do have to have their respective quick play spells to go into them. So keep that in mind. But if you're trying to remember what all they do, actually, like the artwork themselves kind of can help you remember that, or at least it helps me remember that, and we will explain that here in a moment. So we'll start with Plump. Delicious Memory was the first one to get hit on the ban list for this deck. It's currently at 2 at the time of recording this video. Happy that it came back to 2. But Delicious Memory, we'll start with the quick play spell itself. So when you activate this card, you choose a monster on the field, and then until the end of the next turn, it can't be destroyed by battle. This is a very helpful card if you are trying to take your opponent down in that given turn. I will let other more strategy-based channels dig into that for you, but just keep that in mind. Like that can help you enable a combination with Happiness, where you can just keep ramming into something and doing more damage because the opponent's monster is stuck on the field and can't be destroyed. All of the quick play spells have this additional effect. On resolution, so after choosing a card, you can then apply the following effect. Now this is important to keep in mind. If you're going first, not all of these, if you have an open board with no other cards on them, not all of them actually can get you started. All of them have this next effect where you can discard a card, and if you do, special summon one level 1 Purrely monster from your deck. All of them have that effect where you can pitch a card. The nice thing about all of them is because that happens on resolution, you do not have to tell your opponent beforehand if you are doing this effect. They have to decide if they are going to ash this or in some way try to negate it from resolving or negate the effect before it hits resolution, before the chain starts going. So that is something to keep in mind, but also something to keep in mind, like to activate this one, you have to have a monster on the field to target it with. Same thing with Happy Memory, you have to have something on the field already for using that one. Sleepy Memory and Pretty Memory are the ones that if you're going first, that you can just activate them without having anything else on the field. Also, because these are all quick plays, you're not restricted to which phase you use them in, so keep that in mind as well. Definitely gives you a lot of versatility, which is part of the reason this deck can be a little bit of a learning curve, but it is very fun to play because you have so many options. Alright, so back to Delicious Memory here. Delicious Memory, you have that pitch effect. All 4 of this quick play memory cards also have a secondary effect that reads, a purely Xyz monster that has this card as material gains the following effect, and then the following effect for all 4 of them, each one is a little different. So Delicious Memory gives the Xyz monster 300 attack and defense for each material attached to it. So, fun way to keep track of that. Plump, the more it eats, the bigger it gets. So the more Xyz materials that you have attached to your Delicious Memory Xyz, the bigger that thing gets, the bigger those attack stats get. So one way to remember that. Plump himself, we'll go ahead and talk about Plump while we're at it. So as we mentioned, you can generically make these if you just have 2 level 2 monsters, but a lot of their effects have additional benefits that run more smoothly if you actually have Purrely or Purrely as your as one of your materials. But for Plump, once per turn, you can target up to 2 spells or traps in the graveyards and attach them to this card as material. So this can be an interruption on your opponent's turn. There are so many decks these days that run around with spells and traps that activate in grave. And with Plump, you could potentially slurp those up before those ever have a chance to go off. Keep in mind they can always chain it if it's like a banish for cost kind of thing, but this can be almost like a DD Crow for spells and traps on the field to interrupt your opponent. Similarly, if you have your own quick play spells in your graveyard, or if you're playing the Purrely Mirror, you can slurp up those quick plays with Plump, and you can do that once per turn. So you can do it on your turn when you make them, and then if you go into your opponent's turn, if they have anything in their grave, or if you have anything in your grave, you can slurp those up as well. And then because you'll have Delicious Memory as one of your materials, every time it eats up those Exe materials from the graveyard, it gets that nice little attack and defense boost as well, for as long as it has Delicious as a material. So fun little combo there, and both of the effects relate to Plump eating more and getting bigger. So that's a fun way to remember it. Moving on to Pretty Memory. So this one, Pretty Memory is one of your starters where you don't have to have something on the field. Just when you activate it, the initial effect is that each player gains 1,000 life points. This is helpful in that because of my friend Purrely, like every turn you're paying 500 to get that search off, assuming that you're still digging through your deck to get your resources. So this can make sure that you have the life points to do that. It gives your opponent that boost too, so it's not completely free and it can hurt you in time, but something to kind of keep in mind. It can help with feeding your need to search more. But so that's the initial effect, and then once again it has the discard to special summon a Purrely monster from your deck, and then a Purrely Exe that has this card as material gains the following effect. And I would say that the effect that this gives is one of the reasons that this deck can be a challenge. Like this, I personally love this effect, and I love to use it, especially on my husband's Mirror Jade. It is the most satisfying thing. But once per turn, you can send one other card you control to the graveyard, then target one card your opponent controls, attach it to this card as material. So this is a removal option that doesn't destroy, doesn't cause it to leave the field. It just eats it. Just like, I'm gonna take that material, and I'm gonna take your monster, I'm gonna take your card. And mind you, it is one other card you control to target one card your opponent controls. So you could potentially set one of your own quick plays, send that to the graveyard, and then slurp it up with Plump, or just have it in there as a Lily target, and then you can attach one of your opponent's cards as a material. So this can cause them to like force out an activation, or make it so that they have to use something before they lose it. Or it can potentially just get rid of something that otherwise is kind of a pain to get rid of. Does target, keep that in mind, but very useful card. Absolutely love this. And keep in mind, although all of these quick plays, even though they have their corresponding Exe they go into, any of these monsters that have these as effects, or as these material, they get these additional effects. So the effects do stack, and that's super great. But we'll talk about Beauty now. Purrely Beauty. Oh, I just realized there's an additional effect they all have. Lots of effects on these cards. We'll backtrack to that. So Beauty has the effect, once per turn, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of this turn. And then we talked about how you could make these generically, but there are benefits to using it in the Purrely archetype. This is a quick effect, the on-field negate, if it has Purrely Pretty Memory as material. So if you're just making a rank 2, you're with two sprite monsters. That was originally, like, Purrely Sprite was a thing for a while. Sprites are getting reprinted too, so we might see a resurgence of that. But just keep that in mind. You have to have Pretty Memory as material to use that effect. And then this is the effect I forgot to go into with Plump, but up to 3 times per turn, with all 4 of the rank 2s, they all have a slightly varying but similar ability where up to 3 times a turn, when a Purrely quick play spell card is activated, you can chain this card to attach that card on the field to this card as material. And then it has a secondary effect that in the resolution, after it attaches, like, you can then change the battle position of one monster your opponent controls. So, like, say you have Beauty out and you made Beauty using Pretty Memory, but you want Beauty to get bigger. Well, you can activate Delicious Memory, target a card your opponent controls so that they can't be destroyed by battle anymore if you plan on running into them a lot, or target Beauty so that she doesn't get destroyed by battle that turn, and then chain Beauty to now attach that delicious memory you just activated as material, and then she can actually attach that as material. I say slurp it up, sorry if that's weird language, but that's how my brain works. And then she can change the battle position of an opponent's monster. So like say your opponent summons something in defense position, you can use delicious memory so that that opponent's monster can no longer be destroyed by battle. Use beauty to switch that opponent's monster to attack mode, and now beauty just got bigger because of delicious memory, and she can ram into it a lot. And that happiness has even more of that going on, so we'll get to that in a bit. But yes, just keep that in mind. She has an additional side effect. Plump, we kind of missed this earlier, but his additional effect, he also has the up to 3 times per turn. You can attach a quick play that's activated as material, and then he also has the ability, after you attach it, you can banish 1 monster on the field until the end phase. So that can be helpful if you are playing against another Xe monster and it has materials and you're like, I don't want to deal with those. It can just get rid of that Xe monster, and then when it comes back, it won't have its materials anymore. Very helpful. Or if you just need to get something off the field for a minute so that it's not in the way to use its effects, also very helpful. Looking at you, Masquerade. This tax dragon against this deck is so painful. Anyway, but yeah, super helpful. And keep in mind, this also does not target, so handy in that regard as well. Okay, moving on to Happy Memory. Happy Memory, our quick play. This one, you choose 1 card in the field, and until the end of the next turn, mind you, lingering effect, next turn, the first time it would be destroyed by card effect, it's not destroyed. And then after choosing it, you can do all the good things that the others let you do, where you pitch a card to summon a Purrely from your deck, or Purrely. This card, super helpful for protecting your My Friend. You can chain this because it's a quick play, so I'll even set this sometimes and then use it defensively on my opponent's turn, and then if I need to, I can summon another Purrely to potentially get off Lily or Purrely's effects on my opponent's turn, which we haven't touched on yet, so we'll get back to that here in a second. Again, lots of effects going on, but hopefully this is an overview that'll help you remember those effects. But yes, so Happy Memory lets you do those things, and then the attack, the Xe monster that has this card attached as a material can gain attacks. It can attack monsters a number of times each battle phase, up to the number of Purrely Happy Memory attached to it. So you get happiness out, and your opponent has 2 monsters on the field. You have 1 Happy Memory attached. It can attack each monster. Super great. Happiness also has some fun effects, and this guy is fierce. If your opponent doesn't know what they're doing against Purrely, and you can get this out and they have a monster on the field this can beat over, you are going to have a happy day. So at the end of the damage step, if this card battled, mind you, battled, not specifically with a monster, just battled, you can add 1 Purrely card from your deck to your hand. Also, if this card has Purrely Happy Memory, this guy, as a material, you can have the attack of 1 face-up monster on the field. And again, that doesn't target, so keep that in mind. So this card is, it can be your searcher if you need to get more resources out. But this one also lets you, it can search for any Purrely card, so that's super useful. Some of the other searcher cards, like Purrely and Purrely, My Friend, well, My Friend can search for any card as well, but you don't get to specifically pick which one your opponent randomly chooses. But this one, any card, when it attacks. So helpful in that regard. And then it can get off multiple attacks because of this card. So in theory, you can do that up to, there's not a limit on how many times you can do that. However, there is a limit on how many times it can attack. So if it gets off multiple attacks, it gets off multiple searches. Super good. Additionally, because these are all quick plays, after you've searched one of your quick plays, in battle phase still, you can activate them and then have any of your Xyz that are out attach that, chain and attach. So you can keep on going. So you can actually build up happiness during your battle phase and just keep going with it. Super great. And then its secondary effect after attaching a material is that you can return 1 spell or trap your opponent controls to the hand. And again, that doesn't target. So pretty good, pretty good. The way I remember how happiness works, I think of him as like the happy boy that's kind of maybe a little too aggressive when it's playing with other critters on the field. You had all this training of playing with it, all these happy memories of lots of play, and now it just wants to go out and play with all the other monsters that are on the field, each one, and every time it does, it brings back the ball to you, which is it fetching something from the deck, and that is how he goes. So happiness, kind of also forgot, but how I remember what Beauty does. She's the negate. Basically, she's so pretty that when she comes out, she's like, oh, these other monsters, they don't want to mess with me. I am so cute. Like, oh, you're just dazzled by how pretty I am. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're so dazzled by how pretty you are. And so she can negate one monster effect on the field because of she's just so pretty that they forget what they were doing. And she's just like negated. So yes, I might be silly, but this is how I remember. Anyway, and then last but not least, we have Sleepy Memory. This card is also at 2 currently in the TCG. Probably for good reason, but I don't know. It's nice that, because this one, I was really frustrated when they hit this one right away, because this is another one of your opening cards that you don't have to have something on the field to get going with it. But this one, the initial effect is the next battle or effect damage you take this turn will become 0, meaning you can just play that thing and you don't have to have other cards on the field. And then like the other quick plays, it has the discard to special summon effect. And then a Purrely Yugioh monster that has this card as material gains the following effect. Once per turn during your opponent's standby, you can draw 1 card. So, pretty good. We like drawing cards, especially whenever... Yeah, we like drawing free cards. It's good. And then Sleepy Memory goes into a Purrely Noir, also known as Little Noir. Little Noir reads, once per turn, you can discard 1 card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, or up to 2 if this card has Sleepy Memory as material. Return that cards, or those cards, to the hand. So it does target, keep that in mind, and you have to have something to pitch for it. I will be completely honest, I've resolved that effect the number of times on one hand. I feel like generally when I'm going into this one, it's because of its quick effect. So the up to thrice per turn effect that it has is if you activate a Purrely quick play spell card, you can attach that card on the field to this card as material. Then you can set a Purrely trap directly from your deck. And there are 2 traps we'll go over here in a moment. But yeah, so Noir, I feel like this one's kind of easy to remember. It lets you draw cards. It basically is like, I'm a cute little rescue in the window, and you love me so much because I'm so cute that you're just gonna like give me things because I'm cute. And then I guess I'm not quite as motivated to fully bring you the things like our energetic buddy down here, but I'll at least get them on the field for you by setting them. So that's Sleepy Memory, and that's a Purrely Noir, Little Noir. The 2 traps for Purrely, we have Purrleap and we have Purrely Shirley. I feel like I never see this card played. I do run it at 1, and I will explain why. So Purrleap is... I've seen this going anywhere from 1 to 3. I feel like 2 is kind of the sweet spot, but every Purrely player probably has a different preference. Purrleap is probably what you're most likely going to be setting off of Noir. But basically, you can target a Purrely Yugioh you control, special summon from your extra deck 1 Purrely Yugioh monster with a different rank, using that target as material, but return it to the extra deck during the end phase of the next turn. This is treated as an Yugioh summon, transfers materials to the summon card. So if they flip D-Barrier on you, you just kind of feel sad and go on with your day, hoping that you survive that turn. But Leap is super good in that it is your free way of ranking these up into the 2 boss monsters of the deck, which we'll go into here in a bit. But the other thing with Leap, and part of the reason I actually run this at 2 instead of 1, is because if you use this as one of your discard fodders for your special summons off of your quick plays, or like for having one of your cards on field to be sent to grave for the Pretty Memory effect to absorb one of your opponent's cards as an Yugioh material, Leap as a graveyard effect as well. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target up to 3 Purrely monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck. And you can only activate 1 Purrely per turn. The nice thing about that is that you only have to run, so as you probably noticed, not a big main deck monster lineup here. You are running 3 copies of Purrely and 2 to 3 copies of Purrely. That's it. So if those start to get banished because your opponent's like, oh, they don't, if I get rid of these, then Leap is especially important to make sure you can recycle anything that is hitting your graveyard back into the deck. That's also why you can get away with only running 1 copy of some of the extra deck monsters. So keep that in mind. The other trap card that I personally love the artwork on so much, it's so wholesome, oh my gosh, is Purrely, and you've got happiness here, sharing his ball. Look at him, he's like a little ball that he's so fond of, and he's taking it everywhere, and then he's like, oh friend, and then they both grow up a little bit into their adult forms, and then they're playing, and then there's Beauty and Plump, and they're like, oh look at it, they're playing, they're so cute, and it's so wholesome. Oh, I love it so much. Anyway, but Shirley, you target a Purrely XZ you control, special summon one level 1 Purrely monster from your deck, but negate its effects. Then special summon from your extra deck one Purrely XZ monster with the same rank, but a different attribute than the targeted monster by using that special summon monster as material. This is treated as an XZ summon. Then you can attach one card from your deck to that XZ summon monster with the same name as the Purrely quick play spell attached to the targeted monster. So basically what this means is, if you're going first, and you get your Noir out, boom, and Noir, let's say you opened super well and you were able to attach, like you were able to get your Purrely out. I told you this wouldn't be a strategy video, and yeah, I can't help myself apparently. At some point during the turn, you activated Pretty Memory, you changed Noir, Noir got to take that as a material, and then you had this set, and let's say you opened this, or you were super lucky and had a couple quick plays that you could go off of, and so it ate both of them and set both of them. That means that as you're going into your opponent's turn now, first off, don't forget, in your end phase, this is any end phase, so your end phase or your opponent's, you can attach an additional quick play to your Noir. Just keep that in mind. But then as you're going into your opponent's turn, before they ever hit main phase, in standby phase is when Sleepy Memory activates, and that's the one that lets you draw free cards. So you'll go into your opponent's standby phase. If they have nothing, you can go ahead and activate Noir's effect because of Sleepy Memory to draw a card. Love that for us. And then you can activate Shirley, targeting Noir, and that's going to let you summon another Purrely from your deck. Woo! Love that for us. And then it lets you summon, you've got to pick a different attribute, but if you have Pretty Memory, let's say, or Delicious Memory, you can go into a different attribute XZ, and then you can pick what it's saying here, same rank, different attribute than the targeted monster, and then you can attach one card from your deck to that XZ monster with the same name as the Purrely quick play spell attached to the targeted monster. So if you have Delicious or Pretty Memory on here and you go into Beauty, you can attach another Pretty Memory from your deck, and now boom, Beauty you have Noir on your field, and you have Beauty with your quick effect monster negate because of this. So now you have two bodies and a negate off of this. I like it a lot. I don't know why people don't play it. Anyway, just my 2 cents. I personally like it. And then Little Noir, you can still leap into your Big Noir. And we will talk about those now. So the deck has 2 boss monsters, which I put around here somewhere. Where did they wander off to? Okay, so your 2 boss monsters that you can then leap into here are X Purrely Noir or X Purrely Happiness. X Purrely Noir we will talk about first because it is the big cat, and it's the main boss monster that people are going to go into. So you leap up, you go into this, you target Noir, your Little Noir, you go into Big Noir, you just summon it again so you can move it if you need to. But Big Noir, you summon him, and boom, now Big Noir, he's still got Sleepy Memory as a material. You're still in standby phase. Let's draw again. That sounds nice. We like drawing cards. So congrats, you just drew 2 cards off of your 1 stack here. And your Big Noir now has all of the lovely effects that your Little Noir had, but Big Noir has effects of his own, so let's go over that. Big Noir has got a big butt and he's got attack, but that's okay because that's where Delicious Memory comes in to make him bigger. So Big Noir, it's a rank 7 dark fairy, takes 2 level 7 monsters. You can also XZ summon this card by using a rank 2 monster you control with 5 or more materials, transfer materials to this card. So just keep that in mind. If you do manage to just organically get into 5 materials on your turn and you don't have leap, you can also just go into this one or the other boss monster, which I've already set down and misplaced somehow. You could do either of them without having to have the leap, which is great. Found it, we're good. Okay, so the other effect though that makes Noir, well, 2 effects that make Noir the towers of the deck, if you will. This card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects while it has 5 or more materials. Keep in mind activated, so continuous effects, still going to be a pain in the butt. But activated effects is like, nah, I don't care. My headcanon for this cat, it went from the lazy purple cat that liked to take naps to the big lazy purple cat. That's what it did. This is literally just a huge cat that does not care. It is so full and it is so over everything your opponent's trying to do that it is just immune to whatever they are trying to do. That it is immune to their activated effects. It's just like, nah, I don't want to. I don't care. That is this cat. and it brings me joy. Like the fact that I just made a huge cat that does not care is hilarious to me. I love it. Okay. Secondarily, you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls or in their graveyard, place it on the bottom of the deck. Don't shuffle it in, place it on the bottom. This is a quick effect if it has a level 1 Purrely monster as material. So, got one of these as a material, then guess what? You have a quick effect, detach 2, shuffle it back to the bottom of the deck. Very handy for interrupting if they're trying to do things with their graveyard. Like that, oh, you wanted that Albaz? You wanted that Albaz for a fusion summon you're trying to do? Oh, you activated Branded in red and you want to take that? I'm going to shuffle it back. I don't think, not today. And the big cat in my headcanon, it's literally just sitting there and it's occasionally just pushing something off the table. It's just like, nah, it's just pushing it off the table. This is back in the deck with you. That's what the big cat's doing. Hilarious. Love it. Keep in mind, it's only immune while it has 5 or more materials. Also keep in mind, if you used Leap to get into it, you don't get to keep it for forever. You do return it to the extra deck during the end phase of the next turn. So if you use this on your opponent's standby phase, so that you can get those multiple draws, then at the end of your turn and your end phase after that, this is going to return to the extra deck. So generally you'll probably either want to go into Zeus or use up your materials and do something else with it before it just disappears back into your deck. Keep that in mind. The other considerably less used boss monster is Purrely Happiness, but it's so pretty. I love it. This is the card that I feel like has come in and out of my extra deck the most in this deck because it's not it's super cheap collector's rare if you are wanting just a pretty card, or at least it was when I picked this one up because no one plays it. But this one, so you had your regular Purrely that goes into Happiness. And Happiness is like, I'm going to be so aggressive. Well, it just gets more aggressive because Purrely Happiness, you notice here it has the more aggressive attack stats. 2 level 7s again, and it has the same effect as the other, as Noir, where you can also exi summon this card by using a rank 2 monster you control with 5 or more materials, transfer materials to this card, during your main phase. And this is when you summon on your turn and just use on your turn, whereas Noir is more defensive, use on your opponent's turn. During your main phase, you can detach 1 material from this card, and if you do, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls until the end of this turn. So it is kind of like a Dark Ruler. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation if this card has a level 1 Purrely monster as material. So it's a little better than Dark Ruler in that they can't use spells or traps either in response to that, and it's going to turn off their monsters for the turn. Additionally, your opponent, when an attack is declared involving this card, again, this is from our attacking boy here, with this card that has 5 or more materials, inflict 1500 damage to your opponent. So this one's going to be coming in hot with that big attack stat. Keep in mind, it's 25 as its base, but if you climbed into it with your, I have misplaced Delicious Memory, if you climbed into it with Delicious Memory, or if you, at some point in the game, were attacking with Happiness, search Delicious Memory, activated Delicious Memory, ate it up with Happiness, and then you're going into this later and declaring attacks, or if you leap into this on your battle phase, and yeah, there's ways to make this sassy, then you're also burning for 1500. So, yeah, it can do a lot of damage if you need it, and it's pretty. I feel like there was something else I was going to talk about with this, but I have been talking for half an hour straight. So this is my overview of Purrely. I hope it was informative. I hope it was helpful. I love this deck. I love the artwork. I love the story of how you are befriending this cute little stray kitty and growing to have all of these great memories with them, and how they grow up and defend you on the battlefield, help you win those duels. Anyway, thank you for watching. I don't know if they'll ever re-wave them or not, but this was actually the first border sleeve I ever designed. It was a learning experience. I would like to think I've gotten better now about the placement of things on over where it lands over the card, but Purrely, it's a deck that resonates with me. I love it a lot. I hope you might have some new thoughts on Purrely after watching this video. If you play Purrely and want to share more tips, please share those in the comments. If you think you might play Purrely after watching this video, please let me know, because I would absolutely love to connect with other fellow cat fans. And that's all I got. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time. If you would like more breakdowns like this of how I view decks, the decks that I really love, or why I love them, how the artwork ties into things, let me know in the comments, and I will see you later. Bye, guys!